It's decision day for President Trump, who tonight will announce his nominee for the Supreme Court. Sources tell CBS News the president is focused on 4 finalists, including 3 men and 1 woman, all of whom are appeals court judges. The president will make his announcement tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern from the White House. We're now learning whoever is chosen will be guided through the confirmation process by former Arizona Senator Jon Kyl. He served on the Senate Judiciary Committee during the confirmations of 4 of the last 5 justices. CBS News chief legal correspondent Jan Crawford has more on the decision that could change the makeup of the court for a generation.
We've seen these contenders kind of rise and fall again. But I mean, from the beginning, one of those names has been at or near the top, and that's Judge Brett Kavanaugh. He's kind of got all the boxes checked. He's got those elite legal credentials that the president says he wants. Yale College, Yale Law School. He clerked for Justice Kennedy, and he's someone who's seen as he'd be a real intellectual heavyweight on the Supreme Court. But he's very experienced, and that, weirdly enough, is a knock against him. He's written more than 300 opinions. He worked in the Bush White House. He worked for independent counsel Ken Starr. So Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell has flagged that his confirmation might take a little while longer because he's got a record. And that's kind of kept him from kind of sealing the deal and left an opening for some of these other contenders, like Judge Thomas Hardiman. The president really likes his personal story. He would bring diversity to the court. He's kind of the first, he'd be the first justice who's outside the Ivy League. He went to Notre Dame, Georgetown Law School, first person in his family who went to college. He actually helped pay for it by driving a taxi. So he's a really interesting choice from Pennsylvania. The other 2 kind of now we think maybe have fallen a little bit off the list, Raymond Kethledge and Judge Amy Coney Barrett. Kethledge, there's some concern that he might drift to the left a little bit. He's unproven, which some of these Republican nominees have done once they've gotten up on the Supreme Court. And then Judge Barrett, the president is very enamored with her personal story. She'd be the first conservative woman on the Supreme Court, but he's thinking maybe she would be the pick for the next time. She's 46 years old. He's got plenty of time, he thinks, to get another pick. So that's kind of where we are right now.
I want to bring in Franco Ordonez. He is a White House correspondent for McClatchy News and the co-host of McClatchy's Majority Minority podcast. Franco, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So what can you tell us about the president's last few days and how he's going about making this decision?
Yeah, I mean, it's really been essentially just a building of excitement day after day. The president has really enjoyed, it appears, building this anticipation. It really is kind of like the last-minute reality show reveal, all building everything up to tonight's 9 p.m. announcement. To me, in a way, it reminds me of when LeBron James announced that he was going to go to Miami. But, you know, here it is, you know, with the White House and the President of the United States doing this. There's no question at all that the President has been enjoying kind of building this anticipation. He keeps teasing us with little bits of information time and time again. Jan points out that one of the new talk, you know, someone's up, someone's down. He seems to relish that. And what I'm hearing as well is that Hardiman is one of the top picks in his personal story, not to mention his ties to President Trump's sister, who worked with him, is one of the leading candidates.
And Jan has mentioned that it doesn't look as if this is going to be leaked before the 9 o'clock primetime announcement, which is also leading everybody to just really waiting anxiously for the decision. While this is the president's decision, he didn't come up with the list of potential candidates himself, and whoever is nominated has to be confirmed by the Senate. So who has the president's ear on this?
I mean, this is going to be, you know, this big reveal. It's, you know, certainly there's a lot of anticipation for tonight's announcement, but really it is the start of what some are describing as an all-out war. Democrats and Republicans are building up their forces. There's going to be millions of dollars spent before groups, outside groups, inside groups, who are going to be trying to get the message out. Republicans are going to want to make sure to try to get whoever it is, whether it's Hardiman or someone else, and Democrats are also going to be fighting desperately to try to block this decision in hopes that they can stall until the midterm elections and maybe get another pick where they will have a little more influence on. So yes, it is going to be quite a battle. There's going to be a lot of fallout after today's decision, and this is far from over. This is just the beginning of the beginning, if you will.
So, Franco, are Democrats united at this point on a strategy going into what's likely to be a 10th Senate confirmation battle?
I mean, I think they are united at this point, but let's just remember there were 4 Democrats, senators, who went over and voted for Gorsuch, pardon me. So they are going to be they're going to have a lot of pressure put on them to stick with the Democrats this time. And it's going to be a challenge because these are Democrats, Heidi Heitkamp for one. Another one that's being closely watched, though she voted for Gorsuch, is Claire McCaskill, pardon me, who voted against Gorsuch, is going to be watched as well. These Democrats they're going to be paying close attention to, but they are in Trump districts. It's going to be a close vote. They need 51 votes. In order to do this without John McCain. It makes it even tighter. This could be a tiebreaker vote. George talked about how some of Amy Barnett has kind of fallen off a little bit of the leadership. That is because of her, the belief that she would try to overturn Roe versus Wade. There you might lose like a Susan Collins or a Lisa Murkowski. And the Republicans, and particularly Mitch McConnell, want a win here. They don't want to set up a situation where they get a candidate who cannot be confirmed. That's why we're hearing about these names that can kind of be confirmed from both sides.
All right, well, we'll have to wait for the big reveal, as you mentioned. Meanwhile, let's switch gears a little bit. President Trump is heading to the annual NATO summit later this week. You wrote European leaders are worried that Trump might withdraw U.S. troops. What's behind the concerns and the president's thinking on this?
It's big concerns. You know, Donald Trump, has talked about bringing troops home as part of his America First policy. Now, at this point, a lot of European nations, particularly on the eastern side, are asking for troop increases, but they're very concerned that Trump could actually start to pull troops, considering his repeated talk about pulling troops, as well as his concerns about European nations not providing as much financial support to NATO. We talked to Leon Panetta, for example, the former Secretary of Defense, who said European nations are scared to death that President Trump could end up pulling troops from Europe at a time when Russia aggression continues to rise. This is a big concern of European nations, and frankly, it has a lot to do with simply the unpredictability of President Trump, and they don't know what they're going to get when he comes.
Well, speaking about that, President Trump tweeted today that the U.S. is spending far more on NATO than any other country and called out specific countries ahead of the visit. This isn't the first time he's done such a thing, but has that tactic worked? Not so far. Certainly, certainly, Germany and other nations are saying that they are looking and planning to spend more money on defenses, and that they are making progress on this, but they are still far from the 2% pledge of providing in GDP towards NATO spending. And look, it's not just Trump who was concerned about this. President Obama was concerned about this. President Bush was concerned about this and raised concerns. But certainly it's reached a whole new level under President Trump. So far, it's been threats and very strong threats. And that's why some of these European nations are worried that Trump could do even more, particularly his friendliness with Russia. He will be meeting with Putin after these talks, and they're very concerned that he could go to those meetings unprepared, come out saying, for example, that Ukraine and Crimea, pardon me, belongs to Russia, and that would be a big blow to the European Union. All right, Franco Ordonez, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.